brought me fame and fortune and everything goes. Well then, I thank you all, but it's been no better roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a church to call a Hollywood race. We are the champions, my friend, and we'll keep on fighting to the end. Oh, we are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers. We are the champions. We are the champions, my friend. And we'll keep on fighting to the end. Oh, we are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers. We are the champions of the world.
I heard they were taming the shrew. I heard the shrew was you. You might as well say fuck me, 'cause I'm gonna keep on loving you. I crawled over 50 yards of broken glass just to hold on your hand. Sleeping is the only love. Sleeping is the only love. I had this friend, his name was Mark with a C. His sister was like the heat coming off the back of an old TV. Their folks were slain in their red boiling spring home. It was the worst of the Lord, some of the worst of the Lord. Later I come to find life is sweeter than Jewish wine. Get a box of candy or a foot massage. Some people don't take the time. I crawled over 50 yards of burning coals just to make it with you. Sleeping is the only love. Sleeping is the only love. Sleeping is the only love.
Alrighty then. We're back. Planet Green Cheese episode number 405, and we were calling it what, Jim?
Bend the String.
Bend the String. And if you
I
want
thought Jamie was bringing his ukulele in here.
maybe Steve Miller's back. We posed a question that he doesn't remember that we were going to return immediately to him, and he's passed. We are buying time as we prepare for the commencement of some news. I tease, and we will be notified when that is ready. In the meantime, Steve Miller is slipping over into the hot seat. And for Jim, Jeff Frazier, and I don't want to disturb Rick, but I was posing the question, do you think a direction, trend, would be such that the world as we know it changes in Michigan? In a way, Allie McCormick here, a young lawyer who's excellent, doesn't realize she's on film right now. Come join us, Allie.
Oh, yeah.
Jump in anytime, Allie McCormick, attorney P.
82522.
82522. That's
Same all of you as experience as you.
4-7 over here. But there's whatever.
I'm pretty sure she just called you old, Michael.
I know. Ouch. It's a different world. It's funny how funny I am, but nobody understands it because of the cultural references that just go over everybody's head. It's it's terrible.
I catch them sometimes.
I know. All right, we're talking about the world.
Middle-aged white guy.
I'm making the case as the middle-aged white guy from Saginaw was the other day about how the sheriffing of these local communities is a thing. I think it was not designed. It wasn't like the county said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I think they said, okay, we're in some trouble. We can't fund these local communities. What can we do? They still need policing, so let's eliminate these jobs. This is a way to save money and still have the enforcement that's necessary. My question is, if you're eliminating all these marijuana arrests, and they're not bringing the money from those marijuana arrests, is there going to be a less work to be done? And won't these funding by marijuana arrests and through the court system, we are talking 40%, even if it's 20%, have a significant impact on the funding of the local courts, local communities, how that is fed and through in.
It's going to change, but the amount will probably not. And I'll give you a great example. In the city of Centerline.
Give an example. We'll decide if it's great.
All right. The city of Centerline a few years back, remember the recession hit, and like every community, the city of Centerline saw a decrease in the taxable value of a lot of its property, and as a result saw a decline in revenue. And one of the departments that was hit significantly was the public safety department. And the city came out and resoundingly approved a millage that increased our tax cost over the course of the year. I mean, I think it was an additional $600 a year that I was paying as a result of this millage. And I believe that people, and Michael, you started the show off with this, that people generally like cops. They like what cops are supposed to, in an ideal world, stand for. They like to feel that they're protected, and they like to feel that they're part of the community. And I think that this legalization of marijuana gives the police departments a chance to really focus on community policing and not have to worry themselves about these very low-level drug crimes that don't impact a soul. And they can work on building the relationship back with the community and becoming a trusted partner and all of these things that people want their police officers to be.
Well, let's talk about this. We know that when you hold the facts and the arguments that are supported by facts up to the light, and to give it objective analysis on the Prop 1, the opposition was prosecutors and police.
Yep.
We know that the data that they relied upon was faulty. We know that they know the data that they relied upon.
But why
faulty.
do you think they were against it?
Okay, well, this is the question I'm asking. Do we think that they really believed that these things were going to happen? Do they really think or believe that by scaring and fearing into the community at large by some, ridiculous conclusions that they knew weren't true, or, and that they really believe that the public safety would be an issue, or Do they have an ulterior motive? That's the question. Okay.
I think we know they have an ulterior
What is
motive.
it? Is it financial?
Well, yes.
Okay. Well, if that's the case,
But,
then
but
what
I don't
does it really
believe
mean?
I don't believe that's the root issue.
When you're done talking about that, I'll give you a second motive. Go ahead.
This legalization of marijuana is like the boogeyman to them. And just like any other human being on the planet, the law enforcement community has become, adjusted to a specific way of conducting themselves around specific substances. And it's an enormous change. And people are going to resist change. That's just human nature.
We fear change.
And the revenue thing is a convenient excuse, but I don't think, I agree that asset
Here you go.
forfeiture is
It's
a big deal.
welfare police enforcement.
But how much was
You know
reported
what I
last
mean?
year? How much was
It's welfare.
I
to
understand.
The police.
But the civil
It's like
asset
these military
forfeiture.
contracts that they're never going to use, that paying millions of dollars
Look,
to these companies, because if they don't get it, they're going to what? Fall apart. So they keep building the same thing. They're just going to keep funding and find what you're suggesting, right? It's kind of a
Steve Miller gave us the answer when I was here and we did the show the other week. And what Steve Miller said was that cops are saying, how am I going to get into this automobile? They used to use cannabis as an easy tool in order to affect law enforcement. Now they don't have that easy tool any longer. It becomes more difficult for them to do their job. Now, I like the fact that it's more difficult for them to do their job because they never should have had that freedom in the first place. But when you look at the reason why people resist change, it's because it makes their life more expensive, more difficult, or they're embarrassed. And frankly, a lot of law enforcement guys would be embarrassed to have to admit some of the shit they did to people for low-level cannabis offenses in their past, too. And they really don't want to see this level of societal acceptance rise because they will then feel a corresponding guilt level for what they did in the past, regardless of whether it was under the color of law.
Check this out.
Uh-huh. Let me run this by you because you're a sharp guy. I'm thinking about giving Vanderhoff a weekly interview on the show. How would you feel about making a change?
I don't know what that was. It's exciting, though.
It's very exciting.
But Steve, you understand what I'm saying, right?
Absolutely. And I don't know if
Garth from Wayne's World said we fear change.
Okay.
That was the feeble attempt at some fun in this whole thing. It was appropriate for a second.
It's like a 3 minutes ago thing.
I was talking to, I don't know if I shared this story already, but I'll share it again along these lines. A retired Wayne County Sheriff guy I know. And talking to him a couple weeks ago. It was the day after Prop 1 passed. And he was like, geez, I wonder what they're going to do about the driving. I said, driving? I looked at him, I said, are you meaning to tell me that you ever arrested somebody for being under the influence of driving under the influence of marijuana? He said, well, no, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, and he stopped himself. And where he was going is how are the cops going to get in people's cars now? That is exactly where he was going with it, and that's what they all think. That's why a lot of law enforcement.
It's a loss of control.
That is fucked.
It's a loss of control. When you're
and that's the way they're all thinking right now, trust me, is how are we going to get in cars now?
Oh, how about a little thing called probable cause? How about that?
I know. But by the same token, people like Michael Camoran have been kicking ass on prosecutors for failing to do proper probable cause when roadside or when in other search warrant situations. So if you have to prove probable cause, a lot of times you lose against some of these sophisticated attorneys. So not ever having to do that before made their job so much easier, right, Jim?
Yeah, it sure did. I mean, Jesus.
The rest of the people are
I know, but you understand where I'm going with this, right? I mean, this is why police resist change to their rules.